we continue. I think we're still a bit early, but I mean, we're all sitting here. We're all excited to get started with the next session. As we stay in the realm of mobility, we heard about ground and sea transportation from Noam, from Travillier, and now we will hear from three powerhouses from the mobility space. We will have Amadeus here, we will have Uber here, and Check My Bus. And we will dive into the whole world of mobility, what trends are shaping that sector. And it is a sector which is facing both exciting opportunities, but also complex challenges. And before we sit down to discuss and hear from each of them what they have to say, it's my honor to welcome on stage with his impulse for us to set the scene, the journey ahead, what's next in the world of mobility. Please welcome with me on stage Vice President of Mobility and Travel Protection at Amadeus, Peter Altmann. Peter, the stage is yours.
Leah. Thank you very much, Leah. Good morning, everyone. Before we dive in, you may have seen on one of my last posts on LinkedIn that I like adventure travel, that I like hiking when I go on vacation. So I came here to Berlin already on Sunday, and I actually walked yesterday 12 kilometers throughout the city to discover places I've never seen before in Berlin. But that's just a side note. That's not the topic for today. Today we are talking about mobility, the journey ahead. When we look at the travel industry, right, when we look at the ever-evolving landscape, to understand traveler expectations is really important. And we at Amadeus, we really have our finger at the pulse. And here we are committed to move forward with innovation. But the innovation we are targeting really needs to be in sync with traveler expectations, because if we don't understand traveler expectations, innovation may just go in the wrong direction, right? And this brings me to the topic. Last year in 2024, we interviewed travelers to really understand the trends in the mobility space. And the report we have issued is called The Journey Ahead. In that report, we basically identified 8 key trends for the mobility industry going forward. But because of the limited time we have today on the panel, we picked 4 key trends which I think are relevant to all the panelists we have today here. And the key trends we are looking at is, oops, sorry, I was too quick. It's really about autonomous vehicles, the first trend, right? We see a lot of buzz in the industry about autonomous vehicles going forward. But when you talk to consulting companies, to 5 different consulting companies, you get probably 5 different dates when autonomous vehicles will come into the space at a big scale. But nevertheless, they will come. And we see that already happening in China. We see that happening in California. But what came out of our report, which we did run last year, is that only 10% of travelers today are comfortable in using an autonomous vehicle. It's clearly something we need to watch. The second key trend we would like, there is something going really weird here. The next trend we are looking at, it's about better price for value, all right? What drives the decision of a traveler when making the choice for which car rental company they would like to go when they go on the next vacation trip, for example? And here we are still seeing that 43% of all travelers are choosing the best price. That's the most important factor for travelers today when they are choosing the car rental company or as well any other mobility providers. The other trend we have seen coming out of our report is simplicity. Travelers really responded that they would see or being more satisfied if they would have the possibility to have a single app where they could handle, for example, to book and to see as well details about the upcoming mobility, car rental or transfer reservations in a single app, rather than having to use multiple apps for their entire journey. And beyond the 60% who said, okay, this really would increase my convenience, my satisfaction, 65% of the travelers as well responded that it would be much better if such an app would as well include booking capabilities. And the last one we would like to discuss today, and I'm highlighting here, is about the last mile challenge. Last mile challenge, what we are referring here to is, obviously, you as a traveler, you arrive at the airport, how do you get to your final destination? How do you get to your hotel or to your meeting? And here, very clearly, 62% of the travelers we interviewed, they came back saying that having a pre-arranged transfer would really bring a lot of peace of mind to them, especially when they travel to an unknown destination. Okay, so these are, and I only have 5 minutes, these are the 4 key trends I would like to touch on very briefly before we go into the panel. Nevertheless, you have a QR code here, and basically when you scan the QR code, you can download the entire report we have published late last year, which gives you all the details of the numbers I presented, even so with regional breakdowns. So feel free to scan the code here and then download the report and read it at your leisure. With that, again, I want to re-emphasize that understanding traveler behavior is important. And with that, I think we are going into the panel.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Peter. Peter Altman from Amadeus. Let's take a seat. Please take the second chair here. And yeah, please, wherever you feel good. Right. And that was good for setting the scene. So we have a good framework for the coming conversation. And as I said, to everyone who just entered the room, thank you for being here. We have Peter Altman from Amadeus here. And now it's my pleasure to welcome on stage to join us for a conversation the CEO of Check My Bus, Mark Hoffmann, and the General Manager for Uber for Business in DACH, France, and Northern and Eastern Europe, Franck Monsoret. Please take a seat, gentlemen. It's wonderful to have you here. Well, look at that. We have Uber, Check My Bus, and Amadeus. It couldn't get any better, I'd say, if you talk about this topic.
Difficult, no?
It's a difficult topic, absolutely. Let me briefly, CEO of Check My Bus. So it's all about buses. It's the biggest meta searcher for bus connections. Mark, do you want to say briefly something about yourself? Introduce yourself briefly.
Oh, briefly, that might be difficult, so I'm trying. Yes, we're the largest meta search for buses worldwide, so we're working with OTAs and a lot of travel partners directly. And what we try to do is we try to help users to find this missing piece, which was mentioned before, I think, by Noam, to find buses, to find other modes of transport, to get to their destinations easily and in a cheap way, because we believe ultimately this growth, better transport.
Well, I'm excited to hear your opinions on this conversation. And then, Franck, you're from Uber for Business. Tell us a bit about Uber for Business. What's your mission? Oh, is it not working? Do we have another microphone, or is it maybe off? If not, Mark, can you share yours for a moment?
It's working now. It's fine.
Okay, yeah. Great.
Yeah, so thanks, Leah. Happy to be here. And so, yeah, Uber for Business. So it's basically we're bringing the best of Uber to companies and organizations around the world to improve their mobility needs. So it goes from like business travel to patient transportation and lots of different use cases. And yeah, very happy to be with you today.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for being here. And Peter, again, thank you for setting the scene. And I'd like to dive in with the most exciting topic of all of these, I feel, because it's not really reality for us yet, but autonomous vehicles, right? Reality versus hype. Franck, Uber has been exploring the autonomous technology. And how do you see the adoption curve for ride-hailing and shared mobility? Is it a reality soon?
Yeah, so is it, I mean, it's a good question. Reality or hype, for us, it's clearly a reality. Of course, it's very top of mind for Uber. It's clear because there is a massive opportunity. And we already do tens of thousands of trips every month with autonomous vehicles. So it was mainly in the US or only in the US until December last year, where we launched the first city outside of the US, so in Abu Dhabi with WeRide. And we continue to expand. So we are launching now in Texas, in Austin with Waymo. So Waymo will be only available through the Uber app. And the good thing is that tech is getting there. It's working. But commercialization is going to be a bit more challenging. I mean, to bring autonomous vehicle to scale, because there's different challenges. Just to name a few, and maybe the biggest. Number one is regulatory environment has to get there. It's a big challenge. It's national, state, city regulation. It's going to take a while. And here I have to say that Germany is really ahead of the curve, because that was the first country globally in 2021 to put together a legal framework for autonomous vehicle. So it seems that we are producing a lot of cars in this country. And so regulatory is one challenge. And then, I mean, producing autonomous vehicle is very expensive today. And mass producing them is going to be a very challenge. So to make them affordable, and also to, of course, develop the platform to build these vehicles. So reality, for sure, it's happening, but it's going to take a while to scale.
Right, it's taking a while, I understood. And Mark, what would you say? What do you see as the impact on intercity travel and for urban transport? Do you see it as an opportunity, or?
While Frank spoke, I was just thinking, and I realized that about 8 years ago, I sat on a panel talking about autonomous vehicle and what could be the potential. And it's good, things are moving forward, but I think they were moving forward too slow, because I think it's an absolute game changer. Just imagine you draw a circle of 100 kilometers around a city, and there's so many small places that are not connected yet. And that means people have to use cars, because they can't take any fast transit or anything. So the combination of on-demand, which you obviously play a major role, and autonomous is an absolute game changer to mobility. And this is now not intercity, but this is, let's say, and it's not urban, it's in between. If you do simple calculations and you just take about 25% of the people drop their car, in markets like Europe and Northern America, you come to €1 trillion market. It's huge. That part is really huge. And now if you come to intercity, whenever cities are closing down for cars or reducing cars in the city, this means that transit into the city is changing to buses and is changing to trains. And I think especially for buses, having this kind of an autonomous group, small transit, not necessarily a car of 4, but buses of 8 or 10 smaller vehicles, it will be mind-boggling how this can change our world of mobility. So all in for that.
Right, okay, so you're all in for that, but Frank rightfully said there is regulatory challenges. There's the challenge, right, of the cost, the business case for it. And then Peter, when I listened carefully, your report shows that only 10% of travelers feel actually comfortable with AVs, right? And you said yourself that's something we have to watch. What's holding them back? I mean,
firstly, I think it will become reality. We have to watch that, right? We have to be ready for that. I think the 10% are probably the early adopters we are seeing today. And you see that with any innovation, right? That you have a few early adopters, but once then it really comes out into the market, in the industry, other people will follow very quickly.
Right, okay, understood. Right, let's shift into the topic of affordability. You mentioned that already, and the value for money. Mark, Check My Bus serves price-sensitive travelers, right, with your offering. And with 43% prioritizing cost, how do you see the role of affordability in shaping the future of mobility? Is this a key factor of how mobility will look like in the future?
Cost is definitely a key factor, and unfortunately costs have increased with prices for, let's say, consumption of energy. So that's not necessarily good for travel. What we also see is that bus is definitely the cheapest mode of transportation if you compare with train or private car or flights. When it comes to travel, I think there are two groups of people. There's one group of people who is really valuing comfort and who is accepting very high prices and an increase of prices. And there's a larger group of people who can afford less and less, but who has the willingness to travel.
Right.
And for that reason, I think it's key to make this kind of cheap mobility bus or other modes that become cheaper and cheaper available and embed it into the customer journey in travel to give these cheap options to all kind of users.
Right. I mean, it's also a topic for you, right?
Yeah,
The
what
whole,
I may bring in here as well, what we have seen in the report, yeah, the cost is the main factor for people to choose the mobility mode.
both business and leisure?
It varies a lot. It
Okay.
varies a lot. But what we have in the report as well, the second most important factor is convenience. So that they're very close behind each other or ahead of each other, right? So it's about the cost, and the second most important factor is convenience.
But are they willing to pay for convenience? I mean, people want to they want to have things, right? We had this earlier this morning. People say they want to have sustainable options, but then when you ask them or watch their behavior, are they willing to pay for that? They're not. That's what the
I
stats
would.
show. Yeah,
I
you,
would.
right. But,
Yeah.
still, the data that we
Yeah,
have
yeah.
today tells you it's
Exactly.
not. But do you believe they would pay more for convenience?
I think we are seeing a trend that people are ready to pay more for convenience if the difference is not too big.
Okay. You want to add something? Because
I mean, people in the search engine, we see the data, they sort by price a lot. So that's definitely the first factor. But then it becomes relevant, what is the brand value? So if brands are known for being, let's say, convenient, and then if you're on the booking page of partners, you also see that ancillary revenue is booked in if it's done smartly. And you see also returning customer rates, which are usually better for those companies who have improved their convenience.
right, okay. Interesting. Frank, let's talk a bit about integrated mobility, right? When we watch Uber, you're moving beyond ride hailing and into a multimodal service. There's a lot of services you're integrating into the app. How do you see this integration shaping the future of mobility? Are you changing everything with this approach?
In fact, it has started like a while ago because we launched some e-bikes on the platform in 2018. So that was like almost like 7 years ago.
Right.
So we took like this decision and moved to basically integrate like any form of mobility in the app a while back, and it remains a very, very strong strategy for us. So of course you can book like rides, to the airport, like a PHV, but also regular taxi. You can book like regular taxis in the Uber app. It's the case also here in Berlin. You can book micro-mobility, e-scooters, e-moped, e-bikes. You can also book cars. If you want to rent a car, it's also available on the platform. We've also integrated train and flight booking like in the UK. So any form of mobility is going to be integrated. We really want to be like this application that will make it easy, as you said, Peter, and very simple for user, to book any kind of mobility. So it's happening. It's not a start, because we've been doing that for many years, and it's the case also for business travelers. So we, as a business traveler, when you use like Uber and Uber for Business, you have access to specific products that we, customize for specific needs. For people who will look like for very high-end, product, people who will look for only electric cars, and it's part of what we do every day, and it's not going to stop. Yeah.
Right, all right. So 66% of travelers want a unified mobility platform, right? That's what you said we found out in the Amadeus report. So what's stopping the industry from this today? Because Amadeus is working also on aggregating, right?
And I mean, Uber is already doing a fantastic job here in the mobility space, right? But when we talk about Amadeus, we probably look a little bit more at the wider scope, at the entire end-to-end traveler experience. And what we as Amadeus are seeing, that the travelers really want to have this digital end-to-end experience, including the check-in, including going through security at the airport, boarding the flight, picking up an Uber, right, or picking up a car rental, getting into the hotel. So the travelers really want to have this digital end-to-end experience. And I mean, we are looking here at research. For example, business travelers, they need to download today 5 to 7 apps to manage their trip. To manage one single trip, you need 5 to 7 apps. But then you're not going to use these apps anymore in the future, so you remove them. So that is, and people are getting tired of downloading apps and then they have to remove them. So they are really looking at the digital end-to-end experience.
Yeah, I mean, that makes total sense, right? If you listen to it, it's you want to have one environment for all of it.
Yeah.
Right. And Mark, your company focuses on intercity and airport transport, obviously, as well. And why is the last mile? We had it also in the session earlier with Noam. Why is that always this pain? Why can't we solve this?
Because people like comfort, as Peter said. And now the question is, how do you bring that together when you talk about comfort and you talk about price? Because if I look at an airport transit, 90% of the time the bus is the best mode in terms of price to get from the airport to the city. But then depending on the city, or even if you want to go further out the city, the question is where to get.
Right.
Are you getting to the hotel? Can you enter a subway? Is it easy? Are you in London? That's easy. In Berlin, it's reasonably easy. But if you're in smaller cities and maybe you're a resort or you go hiking and you want to be on some sort of mountaintop, what are you doing? Will you take an Uber completely from the airport to that place for, let's say, $200? Maybe not. But are you able to take a bus to a right destination, then switch to an Uber or another on-demand mode of mobility, and now we're getting there? And that's why the combination and the availability of these modes of transportations and how they are interconnected will allow us to get away from cars. And also from, I'm not trying to bash rental cars there, but the usage, the private usage of a car in general is not something that is sustainable. And I think we have to move from models that are individual to models that are grouped in terms of traffic. And that only works if we are able to bring these dots together. And obviously the last mile is obviously the question why people who like comfort are saying, I'm taking the rental car, I'm taking the Uber as a single person and not as a group. And I'm, wasting energy in that sense.
Yeah, right. Okay, understood.
If I may, right?
Yes,
but we have a lot of options today when we are looking at the big cities, right? But as soon as you're trying to reach a more remote destination, then the offer is very limited, right? We need to recognize that as well, that the companies really focus on providing these services in the big cities. But try to go out of a big city to a more urban, remote place. The offers are still very, very limited.
Yep.
I have to
Mark?
quickly jump into that. I mean, you're completely right, and also that's a bit what I said before. But as an example, we have about 200,000 stations or points of destination that buses that run on Check My Bus or trains can connect to. It's massive. It's huge. And probably many of those you would even take on your adventure hiking trips. The thing is, how is it connected and is it visible to the user? Quite often it's not visible to the user because if you book on a hotel, on whatever platform, there's very little information about, how to bridge that last mile or how to get from the major metropolitan area to that small part. And I think that's relevant to everyone here in the room who is working on other areas of travel business. Get that kind of content inside of your platforms, no matter from which partner, but the user will love it.
Right. No, that they love it, that's for sure, right? I mean, the seamless travel experience is, we're trying to achieve that for many years. Frank, can Uber play a bigger role in this, solving the last mile challenge? What's your take on that?
Yeah, so first I feel that we already play a big role in that space because we do like 33 million trips every day. So it's it's quite a big number. So it's more than 1 million trips every hour. So we already play a big role in this industry. But then when you think about it, we know that it's the last mile, as you said, Mark, it's the biggest challenge and it's the biggest reason why people use their car instead of using public transportation. So here we play a role by trying to complement public transportation, and we partner with them for instance, here in Germany, in Berlin, but also in Munich, we've integrated flat fares in the app. From the main transit hub. So you arrive in your transit hub and then you have flat fares to go to the city centers. It's easy, it's affordable, and people can use it. So we try to help people as well to get rid of their individual car. It's important for us. And on the business side, we also provide solutions to companies I mean, to face this challenge. You know, it can be like a company who wants to bring, you know, customers, you know, in their office, in their stores, move people from one warehouse to another one, or also like patient transportation. It's, I mean, last miles in the healthcare industry is a big pain and a big reason why people miss their appointments. So we, here again, we partner with, you know, medical facilities to provide them with, you know, solutions to face this challenge.
Right, okay. So I think it's exciting because a lot of things are happening in that space. If I look at the time, we're actually almost out of time, and I want to make sure I get a last statement from each of you. So I want to know for the audience, one key takeaway for everyone here. What do you think will drive mobility innovation in the next 5 years? Peter, what would you say? What's the one thing that really will make a change?
Autonomous vehicles. For me,
Right.
this is going to be the big game changer to the entire mobility industry.
Right. Mark, what would you say?
I think if we look to the near future, it's the combination of how to glue travel together with ground mobility, the integrations. And if we look a bit further in the future, I would agree 100%. It's autonomous. That's a game changer once the regulatory part is solved. But I would love to see that earlier than later.
I'd love to see that, yeah. That would be a lot of convenience. And Frank, what's your take? What are you seeing?
Yeah, so for me it's easy to say it's autonomous, of course, but I would add also like artificial intelligence. It's like, you know, with the rise of AI, it's truly changing the way people are going to book their travel tomorrow. Like the new generation is, I mean, using it like a lot. I have a teenager at home and I see my son, you know, is using already AI, and it's very different from what I do. So technology is going to change, and AI is going to make it like way more easier and seamless for people to book their travel.
Right. Yeah, Peter.
And if I may, very last comment,
Please.
right? I think the traveler.
The traveler,
The
right.
traveler,
consumer,
right? Because, I mean, it's the human being. At the end, who is driving innovation, who is driving change, is the traveler, right? Again, we need to understand what the traveler wants, because otherwise we are going in the wrong direction. We are not meeting traveler expectations, and we miss out on opportunities.
Right, that's a very good note that we can end on. And I mean, there was 25 minutes, too little to cover all the trends we could discuss in mobility. So everyone, make sure to download the report from Amadeus, where you have a few more interesting trends to read up on, I'd say. And make sure to connect with Peter, Mark, and Frank. Follow them on LinkedIn. They post very interesting content, also their companies, obviously. So stay involved in the mobility space. And where can we meet you in the next days? Amadeus is here with a big group of people.
I'm going to be actually at the Amadeus Hospitality stand in Hall 8.1. Don't get confused, Amadeus, we have 2 stands. I'm going to be at the one in Hall 8.1.
Right. And Mark, you around here for the next days?
I'll be around, just connect, and looking
wonderful.
forward.
And Frank, where do you
You can easily find us all 10.2.
Right.
It's a bit difficult to find your way, but I'm sure you will get there if you want to see us. Yeah.
Yeah, well, getting lost at ITB is part of the experience, right? We like the friction.
It's a happy walking experience.
Yes, and it makes it very authentic, right? So it doesn't get any boring. So thank you so much. We have Peter Altmann from Amadeus and Mark Hoffmann from Check My Bus and Frank Monserrat from Uber. Thank you so much, and it was a pleasure.
Thank you.